Good evening and welcome. It's 4:30. It's the 29th day. The end of November. The end of the year is coming close. And what a controversial, action-packed, danger-filled year it has been for our hobby, and far be it for me, the OGGM, to not occasionally dip my toes in the controversy pool. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to be probably saying some rather not nice things about Wizards of the Coast and the 5th edition players. So if that's something that might offend you, please stop watching this now. And for all of those of you who say I am a Wizards of the Coast shill, again, I'm about to go after this thing. So I want to thank DM Curt for directing me to this article. I would have missed it otherwise. It's one of those clickbait, hate click articles. Sort of site called CBR. They are a comic, movie, TV, anime, gaming site that does a lot of, clickbaity, hate clicky, everything that's not 5th edition is sucks type of place. So they did a list of things that rules from old editions we're glad are gone and rules we'd like to see come back. So let's take a look at this. So, number 10, don't miss. Disparate leveling speeds were frustrating. In the past editions of Dungeons & Dragons, the amount of XP needed to level changed based upon the class. So some classes would level quicker than other classes, reach their high level of power quicker, and then taper off slower, while other classes would level up slower, hit their level of power, and then sort of remain. The martial classes tend to be able to take advantage of this with the experience points. Rogues were able to take advantage of this experience point thing because they would do the thing where, I get 10 experience points every time I pick a lock, right? I'm just going to carry a padlock around with me and constantly picking it until I level up. So, yeah, it was weird. I kind of think that, everybody should have the same level up table. But then also it sort of made sense that some levels classes were just harder to gain experience in just because of the amount of work and stuff. But yeah, at least for D&D, everybody should be at the same power level. Everybody's supposed to be equal, right? So I do agree that that was a silly rule in the terms of the current mindset of 5th edition D&D. Everybody should have to level up on the same table, get the same advantages at the same time, the same disadvantages at the same time. Nobody should be better than anybody else in 5th edition. That's the whole point of 5th edition. Moving on. Skill challenges were engaging. 4th edition included an initiative-based system like the ones used in combat that instead utilized skills. These skill challenges involve trying to score a set number of successes before a set number of failures, and it could be used to represent chases, explorations, negotiations, or any other important scene or sequence. I remember this rule. It was a great rule. It's another one I miss. Yeah, that's a great one. It was one of the many great things from 4th edition. So, yes, I would like to see that brought back in 6th edition. Don't miss. Racial penalties felt unfair. No, they did not. It was a human-centric game. Humans were supposed to be king of the hill. All the other races were supposed to be not quite as, good as humans because they got better stuff. Compare a first level old school dwarf to a first level old school human. The first level dwarf comes out of the box with all these bonuses to saving throws, the ability to see in the dark, the ability to naturally detect traps underground, the ability to resist poisons and magic and spells. And what does a human get coming out of the box? An extra language and a bonus to experience points. Yeah, they were not unfair. Because especially once they gave elves like built-in spells and stuff like that, it was fair. So the penalties were to make up for the fact that coming out of the box, the non-humans had so many advantages over the humans in the older editions, especially with saving throws. So yeah, that seemed to make perfect sense to me back then. It still makes sense to me now. Obviously, you wouldn't use it in 5th edition since everybody's supposed to be exactly the same. There's not supposed to be any idea of you're not as good as me, or you don't level as fast as me, or there's penalties to you for choosing this race over that race. So in the mindset of 5th edition, Of course, it's not missed, but in the mindset of the mechanics of the game, yeah, I miss it. Action points were a great addition to the game. So there was a thing in the 4th edition where you could get action points to use to like take an extra action or other things like that. They are gone in 5th edition. These guys miss it. They think it should be brought back in 5th edition. Of course, every time I see these things, like they like stuff, oh, I missed this rule and it should be in 5th edition. It's like, it is. I just read another one earlier today about adding action points back to 5th edition and wanted to see it come back in 6th edition. It's like, they're still there. They're called inspiration. You do realize that, right? Between the Bardic's ability to grant inspiration, Cleric's bless spells, and the inspiration ability that a DM can hand out, that is pretty much the same thing as action points. The action points mechanic in 4th was sort of wibbly wobbly, never really made a lot of sense. More often than not, it was abused because people played it wrong. In 5th edition, you have inspiration, which is exactly the same thing. So you can't miss it because it never went anywhere. They just changed the name. Don't miss. Racial class restrictions and level caps had racist baggage. No, it did not. Again, it had nothing about racism because there's no racism because these aren't real races. There are no orcs or elves or halflings on the earth. The restrictions existed because it was a human-centric game in a human-centric world. It was modeled after the Lord of the Rings. The age of the magical races were coming to the end, and the humans were taking prominence. And in exchange for not getting any bonuses, in exchange for having the shortest lifespan compared to dwarves, elves, and halflings who all could just sit around and live a couple thousand years, there were restrictions to make up for the fact that the races all got bonuses, that human did it. It was supposed to reflect that very low-key, low-power, Middle Earth, end of the Third Age, going into the Fourth Age. I mean, if we're looking from Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons is the Fourth Age of Middle Earth. It's the time of men. That is what Gary and Dave had in mind. So that is why they said that these other races aren't going to progress as faster. They're not going to be able to achieve as much in just pure experience because they have all these built-in advantages coming right out of the gate. Again, on paper, a first-level dwarf is going to just defeat a first-level human. You're naturally tougher. You have built-in saving throws, built-in resistances. Yeah. So no, it was nothing racist about it. Stop saying it's racist. There's nothing in the older editions of D&D that was racist because they're not real people. Now, in terms of 5th edition, of course, it doesn't make sense to have racial restrictions in 5th edition because 5th edition, again, is built around this idea that everybody's the same, everybody's equal, it doesn't really matter, height doesn't matter, weight doesn't matter, appearance doesn't matter, there's no more alignments, you can be a 7-foot-tall halfling if you want, and play evil because you're not evil, because it doesn't matter. You're just going to be whether you're socially acceptable or not socially acceptable. And of course, Wizards of the Coast gets to decide what is or is not socially acceptable, or your DM gets to decide. So in the reflection of 5th edition, yeah, of course, the idea of racial restrictions and level caps doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the idea of what 5th edition is supposed to be, which is everybody gets to play the exact same way. But there was nothing racist about it. Stop saying that. Miss, alignment languages brought new level to gameplay. No, it didn't. They were stupid. They were supposed to, represent some idea that you grew up a little bit different than everybody else, so you would have colloquialisms and phrases and terms like I say dude a lot, or whatever, or I say whatever you're not, and I have the sarcasm. So it was this thing, but like how often was it actually ever used in all my years of playing Dungeons and Dragons? I don't remember. Maybe 3 times alignment language was like, oh, does your character speak lawful good? No, my character's neutral good. I don't speak lawful good. Well, then you can't understand what they're saying. Yeah, no, I don't miss that at all. It's a stupid concept then. It's a stupid concept now. There's alignment languages. What does lawful good sound like as opposed to chaotic evil? You're still speaking the language. It's still whatever. It's not like there might be different preferences. It's like saying, what's the difference between California English, Arizona English, Kentucky English, New York English, London English, Westchester English, Scottish English. There's different phrases and different colloquialisms, but it's still English. So yeah, alignment languages is stupid. Don't miss. Goal-based experience, altered motivations. That is absolutely 100% true. Because when you were worried about getting experience points based upon how much gold you got, as opposed to getting experience points for killing things, you were less likely to kill things. And you were definitely less likely to kill NPCs or murder hobo villagers because you weren't going to get any experience points for them. Killing 1,000 chickens for 1 experience point each didn't happen because you didn't get any experience points for killing things. You got experience points for the gold piece rewards and the gold piece equivalent of the encounter. So that encouraged more role-playing. That encouraged more interaction with NPCs. That encouraged more stealth missions. More, hey, maybe we don't have to fight this dragon. Maybe we can outthink this dragon and still get the rewards. And if each gold piece is worth a certain amount of experience points, we're still going to get the experience points as opposed to just beating up the dragon. Well, we're either not going to get any experience points for beating up the dragon or we're going to get a small amount. But compared to the gold-based experience, this is a chance for us to role-play our characters interacting with the world because we're not motivated by murdering people. So to say you don't miss that is saying, yes, you appreciate the fact that 5th edition is just filled with a bunch of fucking murder hobos who just want to min-max and optimize and go around killing all my NPCs because experience points and it's what my character would do. But the second you take that away, and the second you place them in a situation where no, you need to keep these guys alive, you need to interact with the world because every gold piece is your experience, you will see that yes, it does change motivations for the better. There is more role-playing when I am motivated by not fighting something. So to say you don't miss that, that's sort of an oxymoron, isn't it? That's saying, I don't miss role-playing. I would rather D&D be the way it is now with just a bunch of stupid murder hobos. So yeah, no, okay. Miss, variable weapon damage based on size. So this was the idea that a small weapon in the hands of a small person would do less damage than the same weapons in the hand of a big person, and then the same weapons in the hand of a huge person. So if my halfling's got a club, my human's got a club, and my giant's got a club, they're each going to do different amounts of damage because a small club is going to do less damage than the medium club that the human's wielding, and the medium club is going to do less damage than the damage that the giant's going to do. So damage based upon size of weapon and size of individual meant that you were always at a disadvantage. If you were playing a smaller character, larger characters won out because they were going to do more damage. So if we're all supposed to be equal in 5th edition, if we're all supposed to do the exact same thing and hit for the exact same amount and do the exact same amount of damage, and my halfling thief and my human thief and my fire giant thief are all going to be doing the same thing, then their weapons should be the same. Any bonuses should come from strength, skill, and whether there's, if it's a magic weapon. The fact that my giant is doing more damage is because he's using a larger weapon and he's stronger, and that is reflected in his skill and his strength. Now, obviously, in real life, if I hit you with a tree, as opposed to I hit you with a baseball bat, as opposed to I hit you with a pencil, the amount of damage it's going to do is different. So yeah, it makes sense. And that was the thinking, that while a pencil would do less damage than a baseball bat, and a baseball bat is going to do less damage than a telephone pole. But in order to wield the telephone pole, you have to be strong enough and large enough to lift it up. and wield it with some level of expertise. So again, it comes back to just more like the strength and expertise of the character as opposed to just the general weight of the weapon. So making all the weapons do the exact same amount of damage is a lot easier. It makes a lot more sense for the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons. And again, if everybody's supposed to be exactly the same, then why would you miss this? We're all supposed to do the exact same thing in combat. That's the whole philosophy of Dungeons and Dragons right now. There's no discrimination. Everybody is an individual. Everybody brings the exact same thing to the table so they can role play their characters better. So yeah, having swords do all the same damage is fine. It's perfectly okay. It fits 5th edition mentality. It fits the mentality of Dungeons and Dragons. It fits the idea that a longsword in the hand of a human and a longsword in the hand of a guy who's 37 feet tall, yeah, that's going to do more damage. Don't miss. Descending armor class was too complex. So in the old days, the lower the armor class was better as opposed to now where the higher class is better. And yes, from a point of view of just what makes more sense, we are trained to think more is better. So a 20 armor class is better than an 11 armor class. To think that less is better, that a 5 armor class is not as good as a 2 armor class, is counterproductive to how our brains work. So in that sense, that's correct. Higher is better makes more sense. Now, if you understand the reason why they went lower is better and how it's sort of related to the war game origins of the game, then yeah, it sort of makes sense why they chose that math. And then it also makes sense why it eventually changed to the math we're familiar with, higher the better. But to say that descending armor class was too complex, -3 is too hard for me to figure out. I don't know how to roll a d20 and know whether I'm hitting a 5 or not. Well, that's basic first grade math, addition and subtraction. So if basic first grade math, addition and subtraction is too complex for you, then you probably shouldn't be playing Dungeons and Dragons, because it's basic first grade math. Now, I'm 9 years old. I'm dyslexic. I can barely figure out normal math. And I was able to, with a little bit of notes, figure out how descending armor class worked, and I didn't detain the game in any way, shape, or form. I was presented with a problem. I knew my brain wasn't going to figure out the problem because of my dyslexia, but it was basic first grade math, and I knew ways to trick basic first grade math so that I could figure it out. And it's like, well, I can just use the same thing here. Negative equals to the positive. This is this. Here's my little cheat card. Bam. I hit armor class 2. If I could figure it out, and why can't you figure out basic first grade math? Lower is better. -2 is better than 5. It's basic first grade math. Negatives and positive. There's nothing too complex about that, unless, of course, you can't understand 2 + 2 = 4. And number 1, reversible spells allowed for creativity. So cure light wounds, cause light wounds. You miss this. Why do you miss this? It's still in the game. It hasn't gone anywhere. No alignment. The reverse is obscure alignment. Detect a lie. The reverse is undetectable lie. Create water. The reverse is destroy water. I missed this mechanic from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Why isn't it in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons anymore? I'm so upset. Obviously, the person who wrote this article has not read 5th edition or any really familiarity with the previous editions. They just want to attack the previous editions like so many other clickbaiters. Feed off that OSR hatred. Oh, the OSR sucks. Everybody who played the game before 5th edition was playing it wrong. And there's things that are missing that I like and things that are missing that I don't like, but 5th edition is still the best. There are no reversible spells in 5th edition. Yes, there are. They didn't change that. They're still reversible. Cause light wounds is still there. Mask alignment is still there. Undetectable lie is still there. Destroy water is still there. Light and darkness are still there. They did not go away. Have you read the player's handbook? The phrasing may have changed, but they did not go away. This is the same where the thing about, I miss action points. Action points were in 4th and they're not in 5th, but I hate 4th, but this was a good mentality. First, the action points math in 4th was awful and way too often abused. And secondly, and more important, it didn't go away. It is still in the game. They just changed the name. Have you read the player's handbook? CBR. All right, so these are the things that some guy missed. It's another clickbait article. Again, I want to thank DM Curt for directing it to me. There are 1 or 2 things that I agreed with, but mostly I disagree with everything on here, especially the whole, racism. There was nothing racism about 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, or 4th edition. In fact, when you look at it from one way, I could say 5th edition is way more racist than 1st edition ever was. But everything else in here is just obviously this guy is just trying to nitpick things that he's seen other nitpick things. Some of them I agree with. The thing about leveling speed, the skill challenges, I miss skill challenges. Racial penalties felt unfair. That's stupid. They were totally fair. Action points were a great addition to the game. They're still in the game. Racial class restrictions and level caps had racist baggage. No, they did not. They were never racist until people like you started saying they were racist. Stop it. Alignment languages brought a new level of gameplay. No, they didn't. Alignment languages were stupid. Gold-based experience altered modifications. Hell yeah, it did. It made people roleplay more. Variable weapon damage based on size was exciting. No, it wasn't. It just bogged things down. And it doesn't fit the current philosophy of 5th edition. Descending armor class was way too complex, only if you don't understand basic 1st grade math, and that's coming from a guy who's got dyslexia. And reversible spells allowed for creativity. I missed that, even though it's still in the game. There we go. There's the list. If you agree with any of the things on the list, let me know. If you don't agree with this list, let me know. There's a link to DM Curt's video down below, and there's a link to this article down below. What a great way to end the month with a little D&D controversy, and I am your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, controversy, and general internet nonsense that is the OGGM. As always, consider supporting me. Help me hit 1,000 subs by January 1st. Consider supporting me through all the various PayPal ways you can, and have a great holiday. Stay safe. Looking forward to the December nonsense. Get off my land. Descending army class is hard. It's 1st grade math.